Good morning. I'm going to be talking to you about something that is very, very, very near and dear to me, and that is League of Legends. I'm a very avid League of Legends player. It is one of my favorite games right now. I'm starting to get back into ranked play. Well, not even back into ranked play. I'm starting to get into ranked play because I'm now part of a team. Not going to go into that right now, but basically, I wanted to talk about my main and favorite champion in the entire game. So, without further ado, this is my champion spotlight featuring
Rammus, the Armadillo.
I use Rammus pretty much 95% of the time. If you see me in game, regardless of whose team you're on, you will see me as Rammus 95% of the time. I have played other champions. I've played Fiora. I've played Teemo. I'm trying to learn Cho'Gath again. Cho'Gath was one of my original champions, and that's a whole nother story, though. Right now, we're talking about Rammus. Let me break down for you how Rammus works. Rammus's passive is called Spiked Shell. Spiked Shell takes 25% of my current armor and adds it to my attack damage as bonus attack damage. Rammus's Q is Powerball. Powerball puts Rammus into ball form for 7 seconds, gaining increasing movement speed from 3% of my movement speed to 165% of my movement speed over the course of that 7 seconds. Rammus's W is Defensive Ball Curl. Rammus takes a defensive stance for 6 seconds and deals back any basic attacks to wherever they came from as magic damage, as a certain percentage of magic damage. Now, Defensive Ball Curl and Power Ball cannot be used at the same time. If you trigger Power Ball and then trigger Defensive Ball Curl, Power Ball will stop and Defensive Ball Curl will kick in, and vice versa. If you trigger Defensive Ball Curl and then Power Ball kicks in and Defensive Ball Curl stops. Rammus's E is Puncturing Taunt. Rammus taunts anything. Well, not anything. Rammus, you can target anything within a 325 unit radius, and you will taunt it, having it auto attack you. I know that sounds like a weird ability. Like, why would you want something to attack you? The thing is, it also drops your enemy's armor by a certain amount, anywhere from 10 to 30, depending on your level, or depending on the level of the skill, for that duration. And that's from anywhere from 1 to 3 seconds, also depending on the level of the ability. Rammus's ultimate, or R, is Tremors. Tremors deals out magic damage over 8 seconds by literally Rammus causing an earthquake in the ground over an AoE area, over an area of 300 units. Whatever the units are in League of Legends, over 300 units. Those are all of his abilities. Basically, if I can go back to Puncturing Taunt for a second, because, like I said, that probably sounds weird to some of you newer players or somebody who has no idea what I'm talking about. Why would you want something to attack you? If you're going to use Puncturing Taunt against somebody, you always want to use it in conjunction with Defensive Ball Curl, because if you've got somebody auto-attacking you that you've forced to auto-attack you, they are then dealing damage to you over time that you could then be returning to them with Defensive Ball Curl. Now, Rammus is meant to be a jungling tank. League of Legends has officially listed Rammus as a jungler and a tank. I do not play the first part, but I most certainly play the second part. I have never jungled before in my life. Ever. I hate jungling. Unless I absolutely need the gold for something. Basically, to give you a comparison for any of you military buffs out there, Rammus is meant to be played more like the British Mark I tank from World War I. just this big hulking mass on the battlefield that deals out some occasional damage. Isn't really much of a damage dealer, but it'll deal out enough damage to at least be noticeable. But for the most part, it's just to take the brunt of the damage on the front lines. I build Rammus more like the M1A2 Abrams tank, which is the main battle tank of the United States military as of right now. I build Rammus to be an absolutely massive damage dealer. I still build him tanky, do not get me wrong, and I'll explain this in my build, but I also build Rammus to do some serious damage. That being said, here's my build. I build Ninja Tabi for my boots because it gives me armor, which adds to my passive, plus an enhanced movement of 45. In the earlier seasons, this would have been called enhanced movement level 2. Thornmail, again, more armor, but more importantly for its passive. Thornmail's passive pretty much does the same thing as defensive ball curl. It redirects physical damage back to where it came from. It redirects all physical damage done to Rammus back to where it came from as magic damage. I think it's magic damage. Either way, as some form of damage. My next item is Frozen Heart. Frozen Heart again gives me more armor, and I believe it also does a little bit of health. More importantly, though, Frozen Heart slows the attack damage or the attack speed of any ally or any enemy champion within a certain radius by 20%. So that helps me escape a little bit, as well as giving me the armor and stuff. My next two items are where I get my damage, and I alternate these two items depending on enemy team comp, where we are in the game, and what I need to have done. My next two items are Athene's Unholy Grail and Abyssal Scepter. Both Athene's Unholy Grail and Abyssal Scepter give me ability power. Athene's Unholy Grail gives me 65 ability power, and I believe Abyssal Scepter gives me 80. So that is at least an extra 145 ability power, not to mention where I've got my masteries set up, that gives me an extra 25 or so. Plus any magic pen that I have, magic penetration that I have in my runes. The other reasons I use Athene's Unholy Grail and Abyssal Scepter are Athene's Unholy Grail has cooldown reduction, which I use Rammus's abilities a lot, so I very highly value cooldown reduction. Also, Athene's Unholy Grail has another passive ability to where if you are missing mana, Athene's Unholy Grail increases your mana regen by 0.1 for every mana you're missing. Every 1 mana you're missing. Which really helps me keep my mana level up. Because, like I said, I use Rammus's abilities a lot. And especially with the enhanced cooldown reduction, I need my mana to keep coming back. Abyssal Scepter gives me magic resistance as well. So all that armor I've been building, now I'm starting to focus on the magic resistance. My final item in the game, and this is where I get my most survivability and gives me ridiculous tanking power late game, is Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel gives me both armor and magic resistance, not to mention if I die, there's a brief period where nothing happens, and then I come right back to life with a certain amount of my health, and then I'm able to get away again 90% of the time. So that's how I build Rammus. I have been told that playing Rammus outside of the jungle, actually in a lane, is a terrible idea. Lane Rammus is apparently a bad thing. I disagree. I have honestly had great success playing Rammus in lanes. Great success. I've had games where I've easily gotten 7, 8, 9 kills with Rammus. 7 to 9 kills, like 13 to 15 assists, and I try to keep my deaths down as much as possible. I've had games where I've ended up with only 5 or 6 deaths. So I am both a very heavy magic damage dealer in team fights, not to mention very tanky so I can initiate team fights, not to mention I do enough damage to where if I don't kill them, somebody else will 90% of the time. As long as I am with somebody else 90% of the time. And usually I am. I don't like venturing out by myself as Rammus. I'm a heavy damage dealer, but I'm not that heavy of a damage dealer. I need people with me in lane. Rammus mid would be a terrible idea. I've tried it before. It didn't work. And believe me, that wasn't my choice. That's just where I ended up because everybody else went off their own way. That was a terrible game. That being said, though, Rammus is a very, very potent damage dealer if you build him correctly. He is certainly capable of much more damage. Much more damage. I just choose to remain a little bit more tanky so I don't end up feeding. Feeding is a very bad thing. Feeding is something I did for the longest time. I'm finally starting to figure out strategies, how to keep my deaths down, how to not feed the enemy, etc., etc., etc. So, that is my take on Rammus. Feel free to comment if you've got any suggestions for me. If you want to take any suggestions from me, feel free. That's pretty much all I have to say. Hope you guys have a good day, and I will see y'all later.